folks. This is me, Vishwas, and I'm the host of this podcast. A lot of times I've been puzzled, like, how can an MBA fit inside the tech world? And, like people still are coming out with MBA in cybersecurity, MBA in operations. I'm really puzzled that one of my PM was an MBA and his coding skills were top notch. Like the guys were like 10 years experience in the coding world were saying that you really did an MBA or else did you just do some other course with another university or something? Like that's how much MBA can teach you if you do it properly only. That's how it is. So I think Reshmi is one of those people whom I really felt like, what, she didn't have any slides, she didn't have anything on the static web app. She came to the reactor and she told awesome introduction to it. And I was like, I need to really do an interview with her. So that's where I connected with her for a very long time and I have got a slot. And thank you so much, Reshmi, for giving this podcast. Means a lot.
Thank you so much, Vishwas. I don't think I have seen anyone so persistent as you, who has like constantly bugged me for over a month, pinging, can we please do a session? Please do a session. I'm like, okay, there's no way I can give in to this guy. I have to just do this. So yeah,
Sure.
I'm more than happy to be here.
Sure. Thank you so much. Let's just start with your journey as a professional and a student because, a lot of times I realize that, you know, as soon as you go from the student phase to the professional, there's a massive shift that happens, right? You have to behave like a professional, you have to dress right and things like that. But now student life is something which is the basis of everything. We should evolve as a student. That's how it is. So what was your journey as a student? How did that journey help you in building you as a professional that you are?
Okay, that's actually a very loaded question. So I'm firstly going to take a step behind and give a quick introduction of who I am, taki the people who are like watching this kind of get a context. So guys, I am Reshmi. I am a part of the Static Web Apps, Azure Static Web Apps team at Microsoft as a PM for the last 1 year. And previous to this, used to work in Deutsche Bank as a software engineer for a couple of years. And then I went ahead, did my MBA from XLRI, and my MBA led me to Microsoft, and here I am now. So this kind of just briefly talks about the background I come from, and now going to the question that Vishwas just asked, right? So I have a computer science background, computer science education. I did my undergrad from NIT Calicut. So I did complete 4 years of technical preference, technical core, I would say. But by the end of my course, the job I ended was a software developer, but in a non-core firm. It was a banking financial services sector. So I have a couple of views which I would like to share over here. There is this very strong stigma or bias people have that you end up in a very technical role or a technical outpowering performance of a job only if you end in a core technical company like Microsoft. So I want to make sure that no one has that bias in them, because right now technology is the foundation and the backbone for every industry, right? Be it finance, be it agriculture, be it education, you need technology for everything. So do not have that bias in your head that if you're not landing in a company like a tech giant or a big four in tech, it's not the end of the world. You can always aim to grow more, but you should be content with where you are, because there is so much in technology that you can explore. And this comes from my personal learning. So I just wanted to put that as a caution note. So yeah, I very briefly explained my technical journey, but Vishwas, do let me know if there's something else you're curious about.
Yeah, like how did it really like pave you the way for being the PM today? Like, nobody chooses this PM role at their beginning of their career as soon as they complete their MBA, right? It's something like, what, let's just hustle around some financial firms. Let's just come back to the PM role afterwards. Like what made you choose the PM? Like, I just wanted to know
Okay. So this kind of goes back to my personal experience again. So when I was a software developer, there are a couple of things which you experience only when you experience it firsthand, you actually get a grasp of how things are happening, right? So when I started working as a developer, I used to work with function analysts, I used to work with business analysts and project managers and things like that. And they would obviously like throw up these functional requirements which we have to meet, and we being the technical folks, we would put against the technical requirements. And when we try to match the functional requirements and technical requirements, it just so happens that sometimes they are not in the same plane, right? And the person who's like doing this sort of communication, like functional requirements, bring it up and pass it on to the technical folks, technical understanding, bring it up and pass it on to the functional folks. I realized that that was a huge gap in the previous industry I was working in, because the person who was trying to do that was not very technically adept. So any functional requirement that they would come to hear from, they would pretty much just pass it on to the technical folks without even realizing if it's capable or not. And that kind of reflected on me in the sense that we are wasting time, we are wasting money, resources, like we are not making the full use of that middle person who is over there, right? So I spoke to my manager. My manager was very supportive. So my manager kind of helped me understand how these are the places where, you know, your technical skills and your managerial skills together can make a power packed role, which is a program manager or a product manager. And this is something which you can definitely grow into if this is what interests you. And to be very, very blatantly honest, right, coding was never my forte. I mean, I survived most of my coding experience thanks to Stack Overflow, and I'm sure most of them still do. So there's always been that part of me which always felt like coding was not my forte. But given that I myself am not a pro at coding, how can I help or contribute making the lives of people like me who are not very enthusiastic about coding new things? How can they still be in the developer sphere? How can they like code something and make something happen and feel a part of that miracle where they actually, you know, committed something and created something? So how do I do that? So I discussed with my manager, and he kind of like led me through the MBA path. And I'm like, you know what? Actually, I don't have anything to lose right now. If anything, I'm only going to gain. So I chose the MBA route. I gave my whole CAD, SATs, things like that. I got into XLRI Jamshedpur, did 2 years of studies over here. And once I was almost done with the course, when it came to placements, again, I had multiple options in front of me. And usually, like Vishwas just mentioned, after MBA, the most cliche role people go for is consultancy, because it pretty much opens you the domain for exploring wherever you want to go further. But for me, it was not very challenging, right? Because I already knew. I just had a couple of fields in my head, which was how to become a better product manager or how to do marketing. So product manager was my primary, marketing was my secondary. That's how I had in my mind even before I got into MBA. And then I sat for these interviews. Obviously, I sat for MBA, sorry, Microsoft as well. And during the interview rounds, it just became more clearer and clearer to me how every interview question that was being asked for me, I was not having to put a lot of effort into trying to answer, because I already was in that position. I already knew if I was a product manager, these are the things I would be doing. If I was a product manager, I would have improved so and so, right? So when you put yourself into the customer's shoes, or whatever shoes which you are targeting to be, you start resonating more and you start providing better solutions. So I did that, had my interview, MBA went through, Microsoft came through. And once I reached here, I did have a couple of challenging months here as well, because like you mentioned, right, the transition is not very easy. It's like 2 years of coding, 2 years of literally just business knowledge, and now you're back into the coding sphere. So how do you pick up on all the lost time? How do you make sure that you're still relevant to the context? So here and there, to and fro, 2 months, I kind of like warmed up to the whole idea. But ultimately, every time, even today, if I am dealing with any sort of challenge, right, if I have to decide whether I want to work on a function, if I want to prioritize something, I'll be like, if I am the developer for whom I'm making this product, what would I like? Is this something that I would enjoy? Is this going to make my experience better? And that is the mantra behind being a good product manager. You should be very comfortable in using and owning your own product and using it as a customer and telling what exactly do you like. So yeah, that's pretty much how it went.
Yeah, this is the end of the podcast. Bye bye, folks. You have got everything that you require to just make sure that you have motivation and do the work, because it's all people skills at the end of the day, right? It's nothing more. But yeah, we'll be going a little bit technical. But I think probably what she's given right now is probably the golden ticket for you. keep that in mind. It's not the MBA that you do, it's all about the person that you evolve towards, right? You have to evolve to the person that you want to be. There's no easy way to that. You have to grind. That's it. Put that grind in. So, of course, it's all people skills at the end of the day. Like in the remote world, yes, it's people skills at the end of the day. But today, when I see how products are evolving, it's completely, mesmerizing. Like, you know what? MBA was a golden ticket, but MBA is also something which can build any person. Like even in my DevOps stuff, I have already started giving books on Professor B. Mahadevan, operations management. You know what? Read this book on DevOps, read this book on operations management, correlate with all these problems. It's still the operations that you do. So I wanted to know, like, what's your perspective on the problem statements that are coming today? And do you really think that there are still some existing canonical problem statements that are yet to be solved in the industry? Like, how should a person approach any of the problem statement today? Because you have been a PM and you know how people react to the chaos. Of course, if SWA CLI goes down, everybody is like, PM, come here, just get the team up and ready. We need to solve this, solve that. That's how the work is. So I wanted to know, like, how should we start analyzing every problem statement and now approaching it? Because it's people skills at the end of the day, but as an individual, do you expect any of an engineer to approach you? Because a lot of times, we don't get that insight from any of the people in the industry. So I wanted to do that.
Okay, that's a very good question, Vishwas, but probably a very, very big question. So I'm just going to try break it down to the sphere which I work in and around, right? Like for suppose, let me just talk about static web apps. So if I'm talking about Azure Static Web Apps as a product, the goal that we have is to improve the developer experience in the sense that you have a very easy platform to host and manage your websites. And how we do it, the idea is we break down a website into static content and serverless backend, right? So when you have just static content, which is HTML, CSS, JavaScripts, things like that, which pretty much just build the majority, the more than 75% of your page. And then you have the second part, which is your serverless backend calls, any sorts of transactions where you have to actually hit an API and get the response, right? So what we did as a static web app product is web apps was a market already, right? We were not there in the picture for a very long time. We are here only since a couple of years. But what web apps did was providing a packed solution where you had all of this together. But this just adds to the pressure of the person who is developing and maintaining the code, because now you have to make sure that every time there is a change, even in the static end, even if there is any sort of change in the API that you're hitting, any sort of new response that you have to handle, everything needs to be built and deployed again, and everything needs to be hosted again. And that was very cumbersome. And second things, because it's not a concept of serverless, it's a concept of everything in one unit, one shell, you end up spending more money to host one website because you want all of these to be available over there. But that is where our products idea came into picture, right? The idea was, what if we break this into two shells? What if we have a static content being hosted and there is like serverless API? So serverless is like probably my server is sitting in China because my audience is mainly in China, right? But I don't have to worry about that where I am sitting. What if this static content, which consists of like more than 75% of your page, if this is hosted globally across, so everyone who is hitting my web page, they're not seeing latency because they are immediately seeing it from their nearest CDN. They're like, oh, the web page is loading. Maybe like a couple of links which need serverless backend. What do I do there? I host my serverless backend exactly to the area where I want my customers to observe the least latency. Like for suppose in the example I said, suppose I am an e-commerce store who predominantly runs in China, right? So what do? I have a serverless API which is hosted in China. And how does that help me? People who are like trying to hit my website and trying to click on a specific URL which needs to make a transactional call. Mind you, it's only for transactional calls. Otherwise, the page is already there, right? I need to do the transactional call. I'm doing it in a jiffy. I don't have to worry about the whole package making a call to some sort of centralized network. Then it's going to CDN, picking the data, doing the to and fro. No. And second thing, because of this whole segregation, now if I have to change something in API, I don't have to worry about my static, right? My static is just staying there. I'm only fixing and repairing and additionally maintaining the other side. And that is helping me immensely because now I'm reducing my build and deployment time as well. I do not have to do this whole hassle. And the third and the best part about static web apps, we have this whole CI/CD integration. How does that help you? Now, anytime you do a code change and you just commit the code to your GitHub Actions or your DevOps pipelines or any other provider, Bitbucket, GitLab, whatever is your comfort, the minute you commit your code change to the master repository or the main branch that you're using, it automatically triggers a build and deployment, and your change is immediately reflected across the globe because your website is always maintained according to the latest code changes. You do not have to do any other manual steps where you're taking the code to first dev to UAT, UAT to prod, then you check how it is, and then you globally deploy. No, there's no pain, it's only gain, right? And we picked up all these tiny pain points which people have spoken from their app service experience, that this is something they wouldn't like, this is something ABC, and we started like accumulating all those pain points together. And mind you, this is not just a PM's job. A lot of time it just so happens that the developers who are fixing the code are the ones who are hearing more from the customers because they just hear something broke, and then the developers actually in the team try to figure out what broke is when they realize, oh, this is also a logical flaw, we need to fix this as well. And then we come up with another discussion within the team that, hey, how about we work on this feature, and with this feature basically we are bringing down their build time from 3 minutes to 1 minute, because all they have to do is now click this button and everything else is automatically triggered. How do we do that? So it's always a team effort, right? Whenever there is any sort of problem statement that comes in front of us, it comes from ambiguous places. You do not know. You cannot even think of it. Like I remember one of my colleague PMs from another team mentioning that this one time he was just talking to his girl, his child, and they were just randomly discussing some project of hers, and he was explaining her the idea of how the project works using his own product. And she just randomly, like she's barely like 5 years old, right? But she randomly asked a question like, Dad, like if you're doing this, why can't we do this way? I mean, you're able to do like something else, right? Her question was with out of innocence and with just curiosity, but that actually gave or sprung an idea that this could be a problem statement. How do you fix it, right? The whole crux behind my mini story was, you do not know where problems come from, and similarly you do not know where solutions come from, right? So the best part about growing is you always need to keep your eyes and ears open. You keep hearing from your customers, you hear from your own team engineers, you hear from people who are using the product, you hear from people who are quitting the product. You try to understand, learn from them, that what are the things which went right, what are the things which went wrong, how do we build and how do we capitalize on what exactly they love. And ultimate goal, like I said before, is you put yourself in that shoe. You are using the product, what best would make you happy with the product. So everything that you hear, you put it together, you judge and analyze, prioritize among yourselves, like within the team, that these are the things which will actually make me happy, So I should probably do that. And then we agree with the team, hear everyone's point of view, and then work on the next set of features. So that the team dynamics is very important when you work on a problem, and problems can be never ending. So you're never, ever, ever going to be in a state of nirvana. You fix fire A, you're going to hear a fire B immediately, because everyone has different preferences, everyone has different choices. So you just make sure that you keep the most of the audience happy, and the ones who could not be catered to with a new feature, you provide them the best alternative so that they are still, uh, I wouldn't say loyal, but they are still like satisfied with using the product that you're creating. So yeah, this kind of, I know I spoke a lot, but this kind of is the crux of how things work in a development sphere.
Yeah, your approach, your attitude matters more than your approach. Don't worry about the approach, because सारा code Stack Overflow में है. Copy
Exactly.
karo, become a greatest developer, paste it. That's what even Kelsey Hightower says, that great best developers copy, great developers paste the code. That's how it is. So that's how you need to evolve. There's no point in saying that SWA is there to help me. It's going to become much more easier. Function apps was considered to be something like, our life is done. We are not going to have anything, but function app is also evolving. You can't say what will be the state of the function app tomorrow. So my last question. So what are some of the resources that you can say about the SWA CLI, SWA that is coming up, static web apps that is coming up, and also like, are there any use cases that we can go through with respect to static web apps that are being deployed and are like, I'm talking in terms of there are slotted deployment. Whatever you see in a web app, it's still there in the static web app, but it's still in a preview product, but it's now a completely full-fledged product which has been released right now. I
Yeah.
think it's going to evolve even more. So what's your view about the SWA?
Yeah, thanks for asking that, because if you wouldn't have, I would have just asked 30 minutes more of yours because I want to talk about my product, right? Just kidding. But yeah, static web apps has been generally available for more than a year now. We went GA in May 2021. So right now we are looking at 1 good year of already being GA. And if you even check out the repo, which I am hoping that Vishwas is going to share the URLs later, but if you check the repo, if you check the documentation, if you check the kind of GitHub issues that we deal with, right? So we try to build a very community focused way of development. We hear from the customers on GitHub issues on what are the things they would like to have, what are the things where they see a scope of enhancement, improvement, and we try to learn from them and implement it back to them so that they are actually happy with the way the product is evolving. So static web apps per se has very good resources for people who want to start using it, right? So if you check out the URL, which again Vishwas is going to share, there is a good set of documentations that we have covered officially, right? And in those documentations, you will also find the learn links, right? So learn links are basically a packed tutorial which has stages which takes you through the features that we support, be it adding a serverless backend, be it adding your own free custom domain, so many things, right? The features that we provide, the best experience you can have is when you do a hands-on and actually like try it out. So I would highly recommend people just go try it out, check it out. And the second resource, which I am very proud of, which my colleague Nitya and I worked on recently, is this whole series of 30 days of SWA. We created a series of blog contents with very handy exercises on every day, which takes a developer from zero to hero in static web apps. It's going to talk you through all the features that we have, all the things that you can try so that you can learn. And the best part is it has an option for showcase, and the showcase gallery basically lets you try and play out with templates and so many different apps which have been hosted in static web apps as of today, which you can actually like test it out on your end. And you do not have to hold back at all, right? Because it's free of cost. We support free SKUs with a very good quota. So for your hobby projects, for any sorts of exploration, I wouldn't think twice to just go ahead and deploy something in static web apps. And I cannot be more than happy about the fact that people are trying it out and getting back to me saying that, hey, this is a thing and this probably did not work. I would like to see it that way. I would be more than happy to see a constructive feedback, because guess what? Our product improvements is going to help not just you, but so many others in the development sphere. So please come and please try out these products and get back to us and tell us 30 days of SWA journey. How did it help you? What are the things which you would like to see over there? And feel free to contribute, right? Because it's a community project, it's an open source project. So anytime you feel like there is something which you would like to add, another blog which you would like to add, go for it, right? And finally, SWA CLI, because Vishwas has already spoken about it like some 3-4 times, and I am a PM for SWA CLI, so I need to talk about that as well. So SWA CLI, which is the command line in command line. Did I just say common? Vishwas, can you cut that part?
Yeah, I can cut that part.
No,
No
no, I'm
problem.
kidding. It's okay. People make mistakes. That should be aware. But anyway, the command line interface for static web apps, we have a separate tool which helps you in doing local emulation. And how does that help you? As of today, if you want to deploy something on your Azure cloud, you have options of, like integrating with VS Code with static web apps extension, or you can directly go to the Azure portal and create your own static web app, etc. But now with the whole SWA CLI in picture, and it recently went GA, that is just a couple of months back, we are providing an option to do the whole emulation on your local system. That is, without hosting it on the cloud, you can totally try it out locally and see how exactly would it look like if it's on cloud. What are the steps that you do so that it could be there, be it authentication, be it attaching your backend serverless, anything of that sort, you can do it locally. And with the whole GA in picture, now we have developed a SWA deploy command which basically lets you take your code from local to cloud with just a single command. All you have to do is type SOA deploy. And that's going to take you all the way there. You don't have to go through Portal. You don't have to go through having your code in GitHub or Azure DevOps, CI/CD, nothing. You have it in your local repository. You just write SOA deploy. And within 20 seconds, your code is out there on the static web app cloud, right? I mean, what more could you ask for? It's basically making as seamless as possible. And the URL for that, again, Vishwas will share it. So you can visit aka.ms swa/cli/ga. We have the whole set of official documentation, which takes you through the step-by-step guide on how to use SWA CLI. And the best part, it is a totally open source project, right? It's owned by Microsoft, but totally open source. So come and step in, add your own contributions, make the tool a better tool, make the tool which you would like to use and which you would like to enjoy. And I can't be more than happy to have all the contributions, including Vishwas. I'm expecting one from you, okay?
Sure, I'll do that for you. Of course, block to hum karte hi rahenge. I'll do that every day. That's it. Sure. I think thank you so much for such great insights. It's not about CVK PM or anything. It's all about that person getting that insights. It's all about me adding one more teacher into my list. That's it. Simple as that. I always used to call her mom and she used to get pissed off about it. And I was like, no, she's Reshmi and she's going to be my teacher. Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much for being on the podcast. It's a lot. And yeah, I think happy learning from everybody. That's it. Yeah, I made you a teacher, don't worry. I make everybody teacher. I made Nish teacher.
Vishwas?
Yeah, sure. Hello.
Yeah.
Yeah, I made
Now I
everybody
can
teacher,
see.
so that's not a problem.
It's
So
not a
yeah,
problem, but yeah, no, ma'am, please. See, it's
yeah,
it's a
no, ma'am.
very
It's
strong
Reshmi.
community.
Yeah,
And the one thing which I would like to talk to the whole community, which I keep emphasizing again and again, is you do not have to be proficient in everything you try, right? It's a lot about the attitude that you carry and the mentality of being ready to fail. Because trust me,
yeah,
until and unless you go out and explore, you wouldn't even know what's best for you. You wouldn't even know if you're good at it or not. If you're not good at it, isn't that a good sign? Because now you know what you don't want to do. At least if you're not interested. Like there are so many different
yes,
sections. You can say like, if you're not good at it and you're not interested, chuck. If you're not good at it and you're really interested in it, you can learn. If you're good at it and you're interested at it, you probably made yourself a career path. What else are you waiting
yep,
for? Right?
that's
So
true.
explore, go crazy, explore, try out everything. It doesn't just have to be developer sphere. Just go out, try out everything and see what excites you, see what brings the inner child in you and drives you to do more. And trust me, the earlier you start on it, the better it is, because you never know when are you going to find what actually gives you happiness. If you have found it, I am super jealous of you because I'm still on that path. But if you haven't found it, go for it. Do not hold back and do not stay back from failing. It's just a good thing. It's a good thing, guys.
Sure. I think thank you so much, Reshmi, for all these insights. It means a lot when somebody comes and says that, what, I'm not yet achieved it. It means a lot to the people who are still achieving it. And yet, okay, we have a partner who can still finding the way. Let's go get guidance. Let's go start working in our right path, which we feel. And of course, we'll find it one day. Thank you
Yeah.
so much.
Yeah, you're really
Let's
welcome and
yeah.
thanks for hosting me. And feel free to reach out to me for anything and everything. I am going to share my Twitter handle, which again, Vishwas will be popping up on the screen. But apart from that, feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn and Twitter, and I would be available and more than happy to talk to you guys. So thanks a lot for having me.
Thank you.